Welcome everybody to our July buyer user group. We are headed full steam towards this transition and we have a lot of information to share. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Shane and he can get us started.
Excellent. Thank you, Kim. Thank you for the great introduction. Also for getting everybody on board here, and a nice fun question, and kind of share some personal highlights from everybody's summer. And I hope everybody has had a great start to their summer and looking forward to wrapping that up. And you know, for those of you that have vacations coming up, you know, best of luck and enjoy those. And I hope everybody gets to spend some time with friends and family and enjoy themselves here as we continue summer of 22. Welcome again to the buyer user group for July 14th. Not a lot of earth-shattering things we're going to talk about, but want to keep those lines of communication open, get you guys some updates. And let me shift over to the agenda here. Really going to spend the first part of this session doing a project update, going over our key project dates, kind of reviewing those. Got some new things that are coming in there, discussing a new item with sourcing and contracting for those of you that use our sourcing and contracting tool to post your procurements, to post your solicitations, and to do your soliciting and contracting, kind of a nuance that's going on with that. Also, another rehash of the functional overview and some of the items we're addressing with a change there as well. Not the greatest news on one of those items, and we'll get to that when we get to that item as well a little bit later. But again, wanted to rehash that with you guys as well. Lisa will be jumping in with me on these project updates, and potentially Barb as well, particularly if there's any questions or they feel like they need to give a little bit more perspective on some of the stuff I'm covering in the project update. And then, of course, Kim and Lisa and Barb and Sarah Lewis will be there to answer questions at the end. We'll leave a little time for questions. We will be ending at 11 o'clock today, just to kind of as an FYI for that. After we get done with the project update, I will turn it over to Sarah Lewis, and Sarah's going to walk us through some training updates and what's going on with EVA training. And she has some great slides and some great data to talk with you all about as well. So, and then again, we'll all stay on for you guys and answer those questions. So without any further delay, let's dive into the project update for today. And just kind of go through some things that are going on and get you guys kind of up to speed with what's been happening since we talked back in June. So the first bullet point up there, I have a big mantra with communicating and getting information out. You got to hear it 7 different times, 7 different ways. I hope this is the one, bullet 1, that everybody's well aware of. But as Kim mentioned, you could be new to our user group today. Our go live date for the new platform, for the new EVA, is now November 1st. So November 1st is the date. Always worth saying that, and always worth having that on the screen. Good thing about that, that's a Tuesday. You know, we'll look at the key dates here in a minute and what that means for us for a little bit of a shutdown when we make that transition. But figured we'd start the first part of the month that gets us through Halloween, and November 1st being that date where the new system will be up and on its feet, and you'll be conducting your transactions and your procurements in the new EVA environment. So excited about that. The second bullet point is really kind of the crux of our update today, and what we've been working on, and it was a big marker, not only for our team, but for our partner in this mission in CGI, is that we have taken our UAT environment, our user acceptance environment, our test environment, and are doing a full refresh of that environment. We really blew it out. So if you had UAT access in the past and had put anything in there, we're cleaning that out. But the good news is we are doing a refresh and really doing a conversion dry run. And we are converting data from our existing production environment and doing that into the UAT environment. So we call it reference data, your user information, accounting information, which is now called allocations in the new system, but basically your chart of accounts information. If you use that in EVA, your approval flow, your addresses, and the entire supplier database from production, deproductionized. You're not going to be sending orders to suppliers or have a bunch of tax IDs flying around. But that data is going to convert into UAT. So you're really going to truly have a production-like environment in our user acceptance environment, or we are going to have that, depending on if you need to even be in UAT or not. That is happening right now. That is ongoing. That's really taking all of this week, going into next week. That refresh is happening, and that dry run is happening, and that data is going in there. The other cool thing that's going to be happening, not only are you getting all that reference data and approval flows and addresses and accounting information and things like that, we're also going to convert some transactions. We're going to convert some transactions. So that's purchase orders, receipts, sourcing, IFBs, RFPs, things like that are going to be coming in to the environment. Now, unlike when we go live on November 1st, unlike when we go live, we're taking a much smaller segment for UAT. We're taking about 6 months worth of that transactional data. But that's still going to be helpful for us to allow, from a testing perspective, for our teams to verify, that the transactions came over and they're doing what we expected, and that we can complete certain transactions that may have been in process, like from a sourcing perspective, that we can do change orders. This is a change. I talked about that in June, but it's worth talking about again. And I've got a bullet point for that. Your ability to do change orders to converted transactions, you'll be able to do that now. We had a different process. We are readjusting from that process and allowing you to do changes to converted transactions, being able to confirm and check that that works properly. So we're very excited about that. Our own verification on that begins in late July, when we'll do some testing. We've got a lot of software updates, or we call them, you'll hear us use the term drops. We've got a lot of updates and drops over the last several weeks that we'll need to confirm and test, as well as just overall verifying the environment. So we're excited about that. Client access after the DPS verification, we're thinking sometime early August. We've still got that out as to be determined, because quite honestly, folks, we want it, if you are coming back into the UAT environment, we want it to be the absolute best experience possible for you. And we really want to spend a lot of time getting this right and getting that verification right. That's very important to us to make that happen. And like I said, we've got a lot of work to do to verify some things on our end. So again, that's what we're thinking. More details to come on that as we get closer to the end of the month, and as we go into August, we'll have more details for you on that. But again, a really big marker for us. And I talked about it a little bit in June, but it's worth talking about it again. For those of you that were with us going to our old May go live date, we had a separate conversion environment up and the UAT environment, and you had to verify transactions in the conversion environment, but you had to do any testing or verification in UAT, and oh my word, it just didn't go very well. It was confusing. It didn't give people a full picture, to be able to do their verification. So we think this is just going to be a lot cleaner experience for everyone. So we're excited about that. The other thing that is coming up We will be standing up a dedicated training environment, a production-like training environment that should be coming in early August as well. For a large majority of you, a large majority of you, that's where you're going to be. You're going to be in training, because we need you to focus on training and focus in that area for getting you and your staff or yourself personally ready for the transition. So a dedicated training environment. And we really feel like that's where a large majority of the external user base is going to land. And let me talk about the difference between UAT and training. I'm stealing this from Barb, and Barb is more than welcome to jump in if I don't get this right. Because we got this question. We said, well, wait a minute. What's the difference between training and UAT? I'm not getting it. Training is what I just talked about. Going through your business processes, making sure you understand how to issue IFBs and RFPs and how to evaluate and award, and maybe playing in the supplier area and registering a supplier and responding to you can respond as a supplier and issuing a requisition and doing change orders and doing receiving and all those things that we have to do in our procurement roles, to get those items and goods and services into our organizations as part of our purchasing role, with our organization. That's training. I mean, and it should be full and robust, much like UAT, very production-like. What's UAT for? Well, UAT is going to be for things, let's say you needed to update your approval flow and you needed to make a change to that. Well, we're not going to want to do that in training. If you say, hey, we really want to adjust our approval flow, something's not working right, we're going to come in, we're going to do that in UAT, and we're going to have you verified in UAT. Then we're going to move it to both the production environment and the training environment, right? Then we're going to make those updates in those two environments for you, but we're going to test that type of stuff in UAT. So UAT is an area where something's broken, something's not working properly. We're going to get that fix into UAT, confirm that fix works, or confirm that a configuration like changing our approval flow works. We're going to get that into UAT. We're going to get that up into our production environment and then down into our training environment. Okay, so that's really the difference between the two environments. And I'll tell you guys, again, those of you that were with us going into our January and May date in the past, we didn't have a training environment stood up. And some of that was just timing. So very excited to have that environment stood up and having a dedicated training environment for you guys going forward. So very excited about that. The other thing, kind of dialing back, as we're beginning to prep ourselves and the environments are getting ready and training is going to start picking up, and we're going to have all this stuff ready, and we're starting to march into late summer. And, we're starting, I'm going to start going over dates here in a minute. We're starting to look at that November date. The conversion roadmap that's in the transition newsroom, that's been updated so that you can go in if you've got any questions about what is and what is not going to convert from the old to new environment. We hope that answers a lot of your questions and is certainly a reference for you. Thanks to Kim Brewer. She went in, she's got all those, everything should be updated from a date perspective on that conversion roadmap and be ready to roll. And if it's not posted yet, it will be posted very soon to make sure that's up there. And then I have a side note here. We need to do, I'm thinking probably September. We had done this in the past to roll this user group through conversion and what that means and what's happening and what's impacted so that you guys can get a feel for that. And, just really talk this group. We did it many moons ago. I think we did a conversion user group back in November where we talked everybody through conversion. I think probably around the September timeframe, we need to do that again. All right. We've learned some more lessons since then, but, certainly so you guys can hear that and understanding what is and isn't converting and what that means and how that impacts you. So look for that in that September timeframe. Moving on, let's go through some dates here. And the first date, this is kind of a new one. and this is where, Lisa, if you feel like you need to jump in and add any perspective to this one. Some of our key project dates, sourcing prep for conversion, and this is the sourcing and contracting module. There are some functionality in our existing module that does not have an apple to oranges path when we do the conversion. And so in our existing module, that's reminders, evaluation criteria, and the terms and conditions library, as well as subcontractor payment plans on a supplier response. Now, not where the supplier goes to report subcontractor payment, not where they're doing the reporting, but the actual plan that they would lay out to you in a response. There's some functionality in sourcing and contracting where that's baked into the tool. In our new EVA that we're moving to, in the new platform we're moving to, there's no apple and there's not a one-to-one relationship. So to make that conversion easier, we're going to turn off that functionality in the existing environment. Reminders, evaluation criteria, terms and conditions, and subcontractor payment plans on the supplier electronic response in late July or early August. And I think the most recent date I saw was kicking around was July 20th or July 27th. I don't think we've settled on a date yet, but for those of you that have been impacted by this or will be impacted by this, there should have been individual outreach to you organizationally where we've gone out and talked to you. But I wanted to get that out there so that everybody heard it. This doesn't impact our entire community, but I wanted to make sure that was a key point for today. And Lisa, Barb, I didn't know if you needed to add anything else to that.
No, I think you've covered it. We can obviously take questions on that at the end, but just as a reminder, these are optional features within the sourcing tool. So if this isn't something that you're using or you're like, what is this? Then it's likely that your procurement shop hasn't expanded sourcing and contracting to begin using these additional features. So just rest assured, and we can, I think you did a good job covering it. We can take more questions at the end if need be.
Great. Thank
and
you.
I'll also just add real quickly that we do plan to communicate. So, we're not just telling you now in the user group, and then you're supposed to share this information or restore or store it. We're going to communicate this out. So that communication is forthcoming as well.
Great. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. And just a side note, hadn't been a lot of email communications and updates and things like that coming out. But guys, as we near the end of the UAT refresh, as some of these things, you're going to start seeing those emails starting to slide back out again. And they'll come, under Pete Stamp's signature, under Joe D'Amico's signature. You're going to see some of those leadership communications that go out. And then you'll see stuff directly from the EVA team, some training. I think there was one that just went out to our trainers today. So you're going to start to see that ramp up, the communications coming out. So we'll talk about a lot of things in these user group meetings, and then there'll be additional things. And I really feel as we get towards the end of July and going through August, you're going to see more of that. And then you always have the transition newsroom to go to. We link a lot of our communications that have gone out, for reference purposes, so you can get to them. Any critical guidance or steps that you need to follow, we make sure that transition newsroom gets updated, and that is available on the EVA homepage. It's in the top menu. There's a link to it. It says EVA Transition Newsroom. You click there, and there's all sorts of information. So as these critical things roll out, as guidance rolls out, we'll make sure not only to send it out to you, but to also link it in the transition newsroom as well. So rolling through some dates so I can get things turned over to Sarah before we get too late. You know me, if you've been around, I love to talk. Just these are dates. You should have seen these, but I love reviewing this stuff. I want to drive these things home. These dates, speaking of the transition newsroom, these dates, these ones I'm getting ready to hit, they are absolutely linked and available in the transition newsroom. They're called key dates. Pausing our reference data updates, that'll be October 1st, and that's all about trying our best to not add users, add addresses, add accounting, you know, all those things we like to do, trying our best to the extent possible that we can to pause those reference data updates in EVA to allow us, you know, to take those snapshots and get that data converted and transitioned for the November 1st day. So October 1st on pausing reference data updates. Electronic responses for sourcing and contracting. We'll disable electronic responses on the 14th. Again, that is just a temporary thing so that we can transition and move to the new environment. The new environment absolutely supports electronic response, but this is just all about the transition and making sure we pause. Some additional key dates, and again, I hope you guys have seen all of these. Supplier account maintenance, a temporary pause on that on the 14th of October. Supplier registration, a temporary pause on that on the 26th. The transition start right now, noon on the 28th. That's actually a Friday, if I got my dates right. So a little bit different because the 1st is a Tuesday. So, you know, moving that out where, you know, noon on a Friday through the weekend, all day Monday, and then have you up on the 1st. And then there's a go live date repeated as well, November 1st. And then the last area I want to cover before I turn things over to Sarah Lewis, key functional areas being addressed as part of this extension. You should have seen this in June. If you haven't and you're looking at this and you're going, wow, this is fantastic, you know, good. But again, I just want to rehash this. User management, decentralization, data management, decentralization for those of you guys that have delegated security or data management. Those things will be ready for November 1st. You know, we're getting our plan together for that, getting trained and getting ready to roll that out to you guys. I would assume that's going to be late August into September where we'll roll that out for you guys to be able to, you know, get trained on that and be ready for that November 1st date. And of course, we're always here to support you. You know, don't think we're just going to give it to you and not support you, but the idea of getting that decentralized. For those of you that work at Q, workload management, having that addressed and ready to go. I talked about this earlier, change orders to converted purchase orders. Change orders to converted purchase orders. This is absolutely a change. We're allowing that to happen. I think the best way to address this, for those of you that cut blanket orders to start the new fiscal year, you're not going to have to close them short. You're not going to have to do anything with those unless you want to, because we're going to convert them for you. And if you need to do receiving and change orders and everything to those blanket orders, once we convert in November, you'll be able to do that. So very excited about that. Ad hoc approver, being able to, you know, we were only able to put that in one spot. CGI has figured out how to kind of move ad hoc approver around and get it where we want it in our approval flow. We're excited about that. The one thing I told you, I probably should have done this slide first because I hate, at least myself personally, delivering bad news, but the Logi ad hoc reporting feature will not be part of the 11.1 go live at this point. So for those of you that's, you know, there's some critical reports or things that you need, that's absolutely something that we need to work with you with to see if we can give you an alternative solution for a short period of time before we get Logi ad hoc up and back on its feet. And then the last bullet point here, before we transition over to Sarah Lewis to give us a training update, is we are updating and we think making more user-friendly and more intuitive our navigation and creation within the sourcing module and how the sourcing module, how you start and conduct your complex procurements. We think we're making that easier and more intuitive for you. So we're excited to roll that out to you guys here and let you guys see that as part of training, quite honestly. That's going to be a perfect area for you guys to see that in the training environment and be able to do that. So that's my update today. Really appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. I know a lot of that was a rehash, but let me tell you folks, I think it has value to rehash that stuff, just to let you guys hear that again and let it sink in. And I am excited. We will leave you with some cool, good news stuff because I'm excited to bring Sarah Lewis on, who's part of our team and really been doing a great job kind of championing and leading our training effort for us. So Sarah, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Shane. And thank you for that nice compliment. And I appreciate you going over all of that stuff. Even though I'm on the EVA team, I cannot hear it enough. So repetition is good for me. So hopefully some other folks feel that way as well. So I do just want to give everybody an update, a data update first on where we are in our training journeys. So first of all, there are almost 5,800 end users that are enrolled in one of the learning pathways for the new EVA platform. And this is just a breakdown of where those end users are in that learning pathway. So as you can see, we have a huge majority, almost 4,700 that are in progress, meaning that they have enrolled in a learning journey. They have started taking the self-paced training, maybe finished the self-paced training and need to complete the VILT training, but that is where the bulk of our users are right now. We have almost right at about 910 that have completed everything, which is great. That's what we want to see. And then also we have a small portion that have not started the actual training in whichever learning journeys or journeys they have enrolled in. So I just wanted to give you a big picture there, and then we're going to drill down a little bit. So Shane, if you could go to the next slide for me, please, or Kim, whoever. Awesome. Thank you so much. So this is a breakdown of all of those enrollments, those almost 5,800 enrollments, and which of the learning pathways they're enrolled in. So you can see, as we would expect, the large majority of folks are in that requisitioner learning pathway, and that jives with what we see in the data as far as transactions go in the EVA platform, that a lot of folks are doing those requisitioner type tasks. We also have a lot that are in that requisitioner approvers. And then we also have a pretty sizable group across, if you look at all of the different solicitation issuers, evaluators, approvers, and quick quote issuers. And then the same thing with the contracts portion of the learning pathways, which is the administrators, the approvers, and the contract officers. So I think this is really, really great. We have everyone's represented. We don't have a learning journey where someone isn't enrolled, which is really, really great. And again, that requisitioner one is the one that we are seeing the most of. And obviously, we're going to see smaller numbers in the contract and the solicitation learning pathways, because there are smaller groups that deal with those particular tasks in the EVA platform. But I just think this is really cool to see a breakdown of how everybody is enrolled and what different learning journeys they are going on. So the next slide actually takes us down even further. So now we're looking at status by learning pathway. So where are the majority of the folks in each of these learning pathways? And as that first slide I showed you really showed, that a lot of you are in progress, which is great. But I really do want to encourage you to get in there and finish up your learning pathway. If it's finishing up the self-paced training and the VILT, or maybe you just need to take a VILT, either that's a DPS-led VILT or one that is at your particular organization. So, and also virtual instructor-led training. I've been told that I use a lot of acronyms, and as Shane mentioned, we have some new folks that join our bug meetings that we might not think about at first. So I want to make sure that I'm spelling out those acronyms whenever possible. The VILTs are virtual instructor-led training, and they're the second portion of your training, the first being the self-paced, which is the majority for anybody who does not know. So yeah, this is basically data to tell you, finish up your learning pathways and let me know if you have questions or anything that will help you as we continue on in training. So let's go to the next slide now that we've taken a look at our data. I want to give you an update just briefly about some resources. So first, the quick reference guides. I am so happy to announce that they are all available now on the transition training page, which you can get to via the newsroom, which is always where I point people because it's a great central point to get to any place that has to deal with the transition. So make sure that you have that bookmarked in whatever browser you're using, and take a look at the quick reference guides. I also had some of our trainer community ask for editable versions of those so that they can make them specific to their organization. So I sent those out yesterday. So great catch on the trainer's part from that perspective, that they are able to go ahead and make those updates to make them specific to their particular organization. Also, you heard Shane talk about a lot of different updates, and you might be thinking, well, how does that impact the assets that are currently in the learning pathways? So first, I'll remind everybody that we have already had one refresh of the learning pathways and the assets within them as changes were made. So this next round of edits, it's going to be TBD. And the reason I say that is because you heard Shane talk about some of the navigation that is changing in our sourcing portion of the new platform. And that's probably going to be where we're going to see the most edits in our assets, because obviously some of the screenshots are going to change. So that is coming. I don't know when and which will be updated, but as soon as we know, we will absolutely let you know. I still think that there is great, what's the word I'm looking for? There's great value in continuing to take the learning pathways that are out there right now, even if there might be something that's outdated, because for the most part, a lot of the information is going to stay the same. It might be an additional thing here and there, or something changes over here, but I still think that there's value in taking those learning pathways. And then the great thing about having the VILT sessions is it allows the trainers to address any changes that they know of that might not have been included in your self-paced training. But I do also want to remind everyone, the training's not going away. There is a continuous feedback loop that, despite of when the next round of the refresh will happen from an asset standpoint, we're always going to be gathering that feedback and updating training. Training is not going away after go live. It's not going away a few years down the road. It will always be here, and we'll always be here to support it and make sure that it's updated to the best of our ability so that you can use it as a tool, not only for you if you are an end user, but also if you're a trainer, that you can use it to train your staff as well. So I did just want everybody to keep that in mind. And we will be updating the quick reference guides as well as things are updated in the new platform. So finally, I want to talk about virtual instructor-led training. So this is a bit of a change for those of you who do not know that virtual instructor-led training is now open to all learners. So even if you have an authorized EVA trainer at your entity and they have set up some EVA training, you are still able to sign up for the virtual instructor-led training by DPS. But here's what I ask of you, because our Train the Trainer folks have been wonderful, and some of them have created extremely robust training programs at their organizations. Please check with them prior to signing up for a DPS-led session, just to make sure that maybe they have something that's already planned and it's specific to your organization. You're going to want to probably take that and check with them before signing up for the DPS-led sessions. But that doesn't mean that you cannot sign up for them. So I just want to point that out. We have a lot of trainers too that, so much work at the end of the fiscal year, and maybe they're not where they wanted to be with the training program. And this is a great opportunity for them to take advantage of letting their learners go through the DPS-led sessions. So those are open. Registration takes place through the Virginia Institute of Procurement's Learning Management System. So don't have to click on a random registration link. It's all in the LMS, which I think is great, and it's super centralized. And you probably saw an email go out at the end of last week that we are partnering with the Virginia Institute of Procurement even closer, and they are really bringing some awesome ideas with their expertise. That coming to the table has really already improved so many parts of our training and our learning journeys. So big shout out to Jen Barnett for being my partner during this. and for really helping me improve and also provide additional support to you all. The other thing I want to mention about the LMS is you will need to complete all of your self-paced training before the VIP LMS will let you register for a VILT session. This is the way that it's designed. I know that if you joined us at one of the sessions in April, it was not like that because it wasn't integrated with the LMS yet. So we couldn't see who had completed what to let them in. So that we had a lot of folks that maybe hadn't even touched their self-paced training that were in the VILT sessions. And that's not the way it's designed. And that's not the best way for a learner to go through the training process, because we really want them to start with that self-paced training and get a good foundation before we go into the virtual instructor-led training where they can ask questions and see a demo in the environment. So I did just want to mention that as well, because I know a lot of folks were asking, well, where's the registration link? You have to complete that self-paced training before the option to sign up for VILT in the LMS opens. So that is my update, nothing earth-shattering, but wanted to show you some of the data and give you some updates, not only on the resources, but also on the VILT sessions, because I know that's a hot topic. So thank you so much.
All right, we have so much information that is fantastic, shared by everybody. So thank you so much. And we do have a few questions that have come over. So we are going to take the first question, and that is going to be definitely for Shane and Lisa. How will the user access look for the training environment? Will we have generic user access, or will we need to set up each person? So Shane would like to go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, the discussions we've had with CGI is it's going to be named users. It's going to be production-like for your training environment. So if you have for the initial setup, if you have users in your system, they'll be there. And so instead of being test user 5, it would be Shane Caudill or Kim Brewer or Lisa Kirby or Sarah Lewis or Barb Lehman. If you have, so then the question was, all right, well, because so I add to this, if you have a new hire coming on and they need to get set up, you would set them up, at least that our suggestion is you would set them up, with their full name and email address, and they would be in then the training environment. And so the users in the training environment will be named users. Now, there could be some caveats if you need to do generic users and so on and so forth, but in the grand scheme of things, we think it's very beneficial to have the users you're training as named users in the training environment.
Thank you so much. And then can you clarify the T&C discontinuation? We use T's and C's that are loaded for us. Are those being discontinued? So if you have special terms and conditions.
So hi, Michelle, good question. So what we will be doing is the T's and C's, how they are managed in the new system is attachment based, whereas the T's and C's and how they're managed in sourcing and contracting and production today, we do have those individual libraries loaded. And because it's not a one-to-one match, right? Shane talked about apples and oranges at the beginning. We're concerned that when we transition your terms and conditions, like we just want to make sure that we're not putting any procurements at risk, because our functionality is going to be very different in the new platform. So you will be kind of, and we've talked to a couple of agencies about this, but moving back to using and incorporating those into your PDF or Word document attachments instead of using the library that is in sourcing and contracting. Barb, I'll ask if you want to add anything to that too, because I know we've had a lot of discussions about this.
So Lisa's right. We have talked to a few agencies that use the tool in kind of very specific ways. But to Michelle's point, certainly if you need our assistance to help you kind of regather your terms, and so that it's, to kind of put it back into a easily attachable document, certainly we can assist with that. But, you know, our team is aware on the policy side that these changes are coming, and we are happy to certainly assist you guys in whatever way we can to make sure that we kind of pull out some of the old ways that we used to do things while also continue to use the electronic pieces of the tool that we know will convert kind of one-to-one.
And just
Perfect.
to add a little bit to that too, it's only going to be on new or amended solicitations. So what we're encouraging those agencies that we've spoken with to do is to go ahead now and start moving any new solicitations into that attachment feature. And once we move this in, you'll have to take when you do an amendment if you do an amendment on a solicitation that's been posted before the functionality is updated and that's removed from the system, then you'll have to take them and add them to your document as well as an attachment too. So it's only gonna impact those new and amended solicitations after the release date. And like Ken mentioned before, we will be communicating that out. I'm gonna guess that our AEs will also be sharing this. We'll share it with procurement directors. It'll go out to our bug users. So we'll make sure that we reach as many people as possible. However, I would encourage you all, if you get this information, to share it out with those in your procurement staff too, just to make sure that we're hitting it and everybody knows it, because it is hard, even if you can't hear it enough, just like Shane mentioned and Sarah reiterated. I know for me, sometimes I have to hear it, you know, we'll sit in a room, we'll all have a conversation, but until somebody says it the way I understand it, I may not understand the impact. So definitely share that out and talk to your staff about it if this is something that you're concerned with, and reach out to your AEs if you need additional support.
Great, thank you, Lisa. The next question is, if we have a request to interface to BOA Works, when can that be initiated? And Shane, you wanted to take that question.
Yeah, great question for any sort of new initiatives or any, you know, integrations or interfaces or anything you guys would like to do. I think you can initiate the request now. Initiate is different than completion and work, right? I think it's absolutely fine to initiate the request now. We can get that recorded for you. We would get that into our Jira ticketing system that we use to kind of track requests and work and things that we need to do. I will say, you know, new data exchanges or connecting with systems and things like that, we are probably not going to have any capacity to look at that into 2023, to be quite honest with you, just the way the schedule lays out. But there's no harm in making us aware of something you'd like to do, so that we could, you know, get that in our queue and get it, you know, look at scheduling that for you once we get through the transition.
Perfect. And then the next, we have two different questions that came over. So I'm going to read both of them because they're related to the same topic, which is, for ad hoc reporting, does that mean that we will not have access to our current reports that we've created in ad hoc? Or does it mean that, somebody moved my question, sorry. Or does that mean that somebody took my question away? I'm sorry.
No, it's still there.
Okay.
I got rid of an
Or
old
does it
one.
mean that we cannot create new reports?
Yeah,
I am
sorry.
so sorry. So, and then also for ad hoc reporting, who will take the lead regarding questions? So yes, there you go. You can take those over.
Yeah, sorry about that, Kim. I was cleaning up some old ones, and
Thank you.
You clean questions and it moves.
Yes,
them around.
clear the
This
questions
Q&A
now.
thing we're
Thank
using
you.
does that. So ad hoc reporting, you're not going to lose access to your current reports or the ability to create new reports. What's not going to be ready, guys, for ad hoc reporting is the data structure. The new data structure is not going to be loaded up. That's what's going to be missing. And that's also an additional nuance with ad hoc reporting. While a lot of the data structure, you know, think about requisition and supplier and how all that's done, a lot of that stayed the same. There were changes, there's new fields. So that won't be loaded up. And every report you have, once ad hoc is ready and loaded with the new structure, you're going to have to go in and look at it and make sure you're pointing to the right thing, pulling the right fields, stuff like that. As far as a point of contact, if you have questions about that, things like that, you can certainly get those questions to your account executive, because what's going to happen, and so that Barb is aware, so that's her team, Anna Coy is going to be helping us with that. Anna is our lead on that tool. And Anna and I actually talked a little bit about that this week about, hey, we're going to need to help some people through this. There's some things that we need to do to help you make that transition for our ad hoc users. And, certainly if you have those type of questions or who that lead is going to be, Anna on my team can certainly help with that. But for any of this stuff, if you don't know where to go initially, reach out to your account executive with the question. If your account executive can't, they have the resources. A lot of times your AE is going to answer that question for you, but if they need help, they're going to route it and they're going to get it to the right resource to get that answer for you. So always feel comfortable starting down that path as well.
Perfect. And then the next one Sarah's going to take is related to training. So some of you may be wondering, what training classes do you need to take? And so is it possible for someone to break down which training classes we need to take depending on our role? And so Sarah, and some people, again, may be hearing this for the first time, they may be new. So let them know how that all works, please.
Absolutely. Would it be okay if I share my screen for a brief moment?
Yeah.
Just want to show you all where you can find this information. So this is the EVA transition training page for our buyers. And this is the homepage that's the learning pathways. And if you scroll down, you'll see all the learning pathways listed. And if you click on the plus sign next to one of them, it will open what that learning journey entails. And then if you look all the way at the top, you'll be able to see how many estimated hours that particular learning pathway is going to take. Here's the other thing that I will mention. If the question is more about an individual and what they need to complete, that's absolutely information you can see in the LMS. And if for some reason you're having issues seeing exactly what you need to complete, please reach out to that absorb box, which goes to our VIP folks, and they'll be able to assist you with that. So hopefully that answers your question. Did just want to show you that information is available on the training website.
Perfect, Sarah. And then the next one I'm going to answer. To whom do new email communications get routed? There have been several different sign-up registration points throughout this process, and we need to ensure that right people receive communications within our organization. Great question. So if you have someone, they want to sign up to get the general communications that go out about the buyer user group and EVA extras, then that can absolutely be done through the website. We have a place on the website where you can sign up, but you can actually, send that information to me, Melva, if you want to get that to me directly. You also have the ability to reach out to your account executive and make sure that if you have certain people that need to be on certain communications. So I know that we're doing things with solicitations. We have the ability to pull user lists and pull data that we need and create communications that are targeted. But if you have any question as to this person needs to get this communication, you can get that to your account executive. That will help me make sure that I get it routed to our team members and that we keep you in the loop, or your account executive may be the one sharing that out so that they keep you in the loop about those specifics. Anything else that I can think of would be just making sure that you are checking your inbox, making sure that you're checking for things going potentially into maybe a spam or junk folder. We do have a way to track our communications because we are sending them through Constant Contact. And if you're training related, then you want to make sure that, again, you can send it to me and I'll get it over to Sarah, but your the trainer will be communicating with you internally. And then if you are that trainer, you want to make sure that you're receiving, again, those communications. We use Constant Contact. You want to make sure that you have access to get emails through Constant Contact. So hopefully that answers that well enough for everyone. The next one is there any new information to be shared about how unregistered suppliers will be managed? And Shane, you marked that as wanting to answer.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any new information. There is a process for how you would cut a requisition to an unregistered supplier. And when we mean unregistered, let me be very clear. We have self-registered suppliers, meaning they have done a full registration. They've either given us a W-9 or gone through an IRS verification, and they're fully active. And the supplier, somebody representing the supplier, has registered an EVA. That's one, self. Two is state entered. That means us on the government side have done a full supplier registration, and we've provided a W-9 or the proper name and TIN combination that the supplier verifies with the Internal Revenue Service, and they become active. So self and state registered vendors are out there. They're in the full drop-down list on the supplier profile. You do a rec, you do whatever, you pick them, bada bing, bada boom. There is a process for issuing an order to a non-registered vendor, and it's in place, and it's been in place for a while. You do Lisa had her fingers crossed. I'm gonna make sure I get it right because she's gonna add to it. It's a confirming order. When you do a confirming order, there's an area when you select the supplier that I think it says supplier not registered or something like that. You click it, you key in the supplier information, and you submit. And you're not providing any further details than that. But it is a way to issue orders to non-registered suppliers. Lisa, go ahead.
Yep, and Barb, I'm gonna tee you up, so get ready, because I'm gonna dance a little in policy side of the house a little, as you know, because this is an area of the tool. Again, I didn't do it the right way, and then I joined the EVA team, and I learned a little bit more. Sorry, my audio is a little different. New computer, and I'm old now and learning technology like the unicorn, I guess. What's different about this new platform is that state entered suppliers can be registered and onboarded very quickly. So what I would encourage you to do is that if you have a supplier and you need an order to be cut to them today, then go through that, get the W-9 from the supplier, create the state entered, and we will be able to activate them pretty quickly. They're available. What's new about this tool and what you're not seeing is that new like fill in the blank field on a regular requisition is because the system now, once you create it and our vendor support team onboards that supplier, they're available to purchase from immediately. There's no overnight syncs or anything like that. So there's no holdup. There should not be a rush to do these ad hoc suppliers. And what we found based on the wonderful data that you've created using EVA over all of these years is that most of the time that these ad hoc suppliers, you very rarely use that feature of the tool. Like there was maybe one or two organizations that were using it, and we looked at their data, and they were typically used on confirming orders. So really, if you run into this would be a great conversation to have with your account executive one-on-one to bring forward some example purchase orders, then talk through that business process with us. Because what I think that you're going to find is if you're looking for that and it's not there, it's because the state entered process and getting those suppliers onboarded is faster in the new solution. And where I wanted to dance in the policy piece, Barb jumped in, is really if you're going down that route, it's an emergency situation like with COVID where we needed to get the order to the supplier for masks 5 minutes ago, where we were not going to get the masks. Like otherwise, there is a process in place to get these suppliers activated, and there shouldn't really be a need to have these rogue ad hoc suppliers in the system too much anymore, except for maybe those, like I said, those odd confirming order situations.
Yeah, that you hit it, Lisa. I think the only other thing I might add is to carefully check before you create a state entered vendor. Double check or triple check the vendors that are self-registered already in the tool, or even perhaps are already state entered by another agency or public body. because we're finding a lot of duplicates because folks just aren't taking that extra step, or maybe they're being very specific in their search of a vendor name, as opposed to being a little, instead of state of Virginia, you look at Virginia, or, that's a terrible example. But you get my point, right? Sometimes less is more when you're searching for those vendor names that may already be registered in the tool.
All right, guys, let's move through a couple more questions. And I know we were going to stop at the top of the hour, but we have just a few more questions. I feel like we can get through those and make sure that we get all of these answered for everyone. So Sarah, there's a question in there that's specific to a person individually. So I'm going to get you to address that one. That's about their specific training that's been completed, and do they need to do it again? So I'll let you type that answer if that's okay with you. And then the next question is, will we be able to set up a couple of additional folks as approvers in all roles and training in order to move transactions through? I'm concerned about having a very large and varied amount of people in approval roles that do not need to be asked to do approvals for training purposes. And Shane, you said you wanted to answer that one.
Short answer to that one is yes, of course.
All right.
And then there's another option for that as well that we will discuss as we launch the training environment. But yes, that you will absolutely be able to, if you wanted to throw a couple of your trainers into all of the roles or something like that, you could absolutely do that.
And then there's another question. It looks like you want to answer that one as well. And it's specific to, I guess, not the new platform. It says currently in EVA, sometimes it throws a gray box, red flags.
Well, yeah, so that one I'll
entirely or deletes the
I'll speak to the user directly. So, and I won't even read what's in there, but Clinton Wagner, how you doing out there, Clinton, has a specific situation where he's having a struggle with requisitioning in EVA right now. Please call EVA customer care about that and have them address the situation. They can document that issue for you. I don't know that it's suggesting the best. You should be able to use EVA at any time of day and not have a situation like this. I'd like my customer care folks to take a look at that for you. If it's something that they can't solve directly, Sarah Lewis is actually, not only does she do all this training stuff, but she is our email lead and soon to be our P2P lead when we switch to the new environment and the new names and stuff. So if customer care, Clinton, can't solve that for you, Sarah will take a look at it. And if it goes higher than that, we pull in CGI to help us. So please, that existing support for the EVA environment is there. I'm glad you brought that up today because it's one of the things I wanted to talk about. So we've got customer care, we've got folks supporting the current environment as well. So please, please, please reach out to them and let them have a look and see. Again, it shouldn't be a time of day thing for you in EVA. We should be able to identify what's going on and get you some help.
And then the next question is, what is the best source of training information for the agency person responsible for EVA security? You need to be familiar with Yana Irby, who is our EVA Global Security manager with our team. So if you are not already familiar with Yana, she maintains a list of those different individuals that need to be updated about security related training and specifics. And Barb, did you want to add anything to that?
Thanks, Kim. I would just say, stay tuned. Marsha, just stay tuned with us, Marsha. There's more information that will be coming to folks either from Yana or us on the policy AE side, or both. But hang in there. We're coming for you.
And the answer is, the basic answer is, there is not general user training related to security. That's specialized information that will get shared either through Yana or through your account executive. So thank you for adding that. And
Absolutely.
then we're going to wrap up with, is it possible for we've already done that one, Sarah, who can clear that one. The last one that we have is, if we completed the training in preparation for the May startup, will there be changes and updates made to training that we need to redo for November? And I think that this is worth restating because I know we shared it during the general information, but just to clarify about certain assets being refreshed, and mainly it's the sourcing related assets that are being refreshed. But Sarah, do you want to add anything to the fact that yes, they may need to take sourcing specific ones correct again, and you'll be sending a list out when those get refreshed, TBD, right?
Well, what I want to say is nobody will be required to retake the training, but what I will say is it will be available to those who want to go in and see what the changes are. If I think Shane and I have talked about this before, we're just kind of like, yeah, let us get in there and look at it. But then there are some people that really do want to see in the training assets what the updates are. So you'll have the option to do that, but you will not be required to retake it as the changes are made.
Perfect. And then if you find that you have any additional questions as we wrap up our user group, please make sure that you get those to your account executive. We do still have the link where you can submit through the transition newsroom a feedback or questions form. So you can also submit it through the transition newsroom. It's on the left navigation. And one more, please. I understand that adding an ad hoc vendor will be easier. However, adding an ad hoc vendor, an agency is responsible for paying the EVA fees. Is that correct? So I think it's, again, not ad hoc, but it's a state entered vendor. Is that right, Shane?
Well, no, not, I mean, if she's saying ad hoc, that's non-registered. And I think Lisa, Barb kind of went through that.
Right.
It's easier to enter a state entered vendor now. Ad hoc or non-registered, that should be your absolute last
resort. Yeah.
Your absolute last resort. It has to be, guys, it should be an emergency when we're doing that. Period, end of sentence. And yes, if you do a non-registered vendor, there are fees and the agency is responsible. So keep that in mind.
And then Barb has some additional information that she'd like to share, and then we will conclude.
Thanks, Kim. I would just also add on to what Shane was just saying about the ad hoc vendors, and should only be in an emergency. And I'm not sure that even in an emergency, the ad hoc vendor situation is the way to go, right? So we can help you with policy implications of an emergency order and using an ad, having to ad hoc a vendor in as well. I just wanted to add, someone asked this and I responded in writing, and I should have just answered it live to begin with, but about the 2022 version of the VPPA. So the DGS DPS policy section of our website has been updated, and the PIM 40 and APSPM are have been posted out there, and those are current. And the vendor's manual and the unofficial version of the 2022 vendor's manual of VPPA, sorry, have been updated and posted as of this morning. So our website is current with all of that new and updated policy information. And so don't hesitate to reach out. You can certainly reach out directly to me if you have any additional questions.
Thank you. And there is a banner up on the EVA website homepage that will quickly get you over to that PIM information and all of those additional links. So thank you, panelists. And thank you guys so much for your time, attention, and attendance. We will be sharing the playback. Thank you for all the great questions and helping us make sure that we're sharing out this information. We will see you with the August, September, October, November, December user groups. We'll be setting up those dates, so that will be coming out as well. So look for that information. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Take care,
you.
guys.
Bye.